Te whānau, welcome back. Planting Seeds. I don't know what episode we're on, but I do remember that our next guest, he was on episode 6. My brother, no mai hoki mai ki tēnei kaupapa, brother.
Good to be back, bro. Ooh. Feels like home.
Bro, I just got like the shivers because we always have like some next level chats, but I feel this has been brewing for the last couple of years since we had our last kōrero, bro, and so much has happened. But the same thing keeps bringing us back together, bro. So, you know, what's been happening for you recently outside of your mahi, bro? Like, what's some of the things that, you know, I see you into jiu-jitsu, you know, that's been something that's you've been going hard out with, you into Harleys and bikes and all of that. So are these the things that you've just been getting into recently, bro?
Well, what it was for me, bro, initially was where could I spend energy that was going to be reciprocated? And I found a love for jiu-jitsu. I think I just started not long after we had our first podcast. So I'm a back-end purple belt now, getting ready to put my hand up to say I'm ready for the next lev. Competed at the World Jiu-Jitsu Tournament in Las Vegas, came second at the Pampax in Australia, won the national title here in Aotearoa, was the Māori national champ. So I just went for it, bro, and I think it was a good reciprocated way for me to be able to download some ancient methods of martial movement in my body at the time. And I just got a bug for it, got really, really hungry. But now for me in my 40s now, bro, I just love it for therapy. I love just hanging out with some high vibrational people and just learning about the technicality of something that I don't know. And you're always learning. It's infinite. I'm into infinite measures of life. And so, yeah, bro, riding Harleys is another passion of mine as well. I got into Harleys a couple of years ago and just thought to myself, man, when you're on that and you've got no seatbelt on, you've only got half a helmet on, and it's just the wind blowing in your face, and you're with Tāwhiri Mātea, you're amongst the gods. And that was a nice way for me to be able to, you know, spend a little bit of energy that I've kind of sort of built up over time. And yeah, bro, other than that, mahi papa, 16-year-old boy, my baby turns 6 next month. So, yeah, life's chucking on really, really well. If we can go back to the first podcast we done, mai te pū, te utu ki te weu, te more, I think I'm in the haka phase of growth.
Wow.
The haka phase of growth of just, you know, spreading my vines out there and aligning them to things that really resonate with me. And, you know, the whare is it's pumping at the moment.
Pumping.
And so I'm really honoured to be sitting here with you 130 podcasts later, 227 wānanga later. Yeah, be interesting to see what's going to unfold now, bro.
So, even just like checking back to, you know, jiu-jitsu, I was sort of talking to you off camera, that's something that I'm just being pulled into, you know, the more conversations that I have around it. And it's quite interesting, bro. I was having this thought process just recently, actually, and becoming a papa and, you know, being in a, with my whānau. Just want to be able to have the ability to protect my whānau, you know, not necessarily I would ever use it, but just knowing that those tools are in my kete would just give me a bit more courage whenever it's needed, outside of not having any sort of like background in self-defense or whatever that looks like. That's sort of like a reason for me to get into it. But then I also know I love going into the technicality of certain things and being in the camaraderie of other people. So I think there's a lot of benefits on me stepping into that space. And then furthermore, bro, one of my things I wrote out like 10 wants, and they're not necessarily goals, but they're just things that I want to experience. And one of them, bro, is riding a Harley. Because I honestly, bro, I've had heaps of opportunities to get on a Harley, but bro, that power like freaks me out. If I was to be honest, like that much power between my legs, it's there, but nah. But having that, bro, it really it's a bit of fear in terms of, yeah, just not knowing how to like harness that kind of power, bro. So those are the two things that I'm interested in, and you're already doing it, brother.
Yeah, well, you know, starting off with the Harley buzz, our tupuna loved horses,
Yeah,
because
true.
it's that power beneath, and it's having that ability to be able to control such power, but know that there's an element of risk to it as well. And when you're, you know, when you've got like that much horsepower beneath you and you give it a little bit of a throttle, it sends the widdies up your spine, bro, and your oro just goes. Like, you would have seen my reaction as soon as you said that. You wanted to. I got 3 downstairs, bro, if you want to go down to 2, bro.
Bro, I actually seen one that looks like quite cool, bro. It actually got my name on it. Actually, one of those little smaller ones. I'm like, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, bro. And it does really, it's rejuvenating for the wairua, like I was saying before. But, you know, it's I think, you know, when you're living life on the edge in a moment like riding a Harley, it really takes you somewhere else. So it's a good escape for me to be able to go, cool, get out of my reality for a little bit and just let the wairua flow with that much horsepower beneath your legs.
You have to be present, You can't be thinking or texting like you would in a car usually, but
yeah.
You have to just sort of like be on with what every part of being on the back of the bike,
Yeah. Sometimes I get a little bit whakahihi and grab the phone out a little bit and give it a little bit of a one-hander thing. And I'm like, well, shit, just about lost my phone there. So it reminds you, bro.
Yeah. One of the words that you just said there, bro, is oro. I love that word, and I guess the representation of what oro is, you know, vibration, and, you know, you use that quite a lot throughout wānanga and things of that nature because, you know, what is your interpretation of oro, bro, and how could you communicate that to our whānau listening?
Yeah, oro is, I mean, I guess you can interpret it to, you know, well, 3 things that I've heard it across the ground, and, you know, religious people call it, you know, the spirit. Science calls it energy, and people on the street call it vibration. I roto i Te Ao Māori, it has a much deeper terminology, and we could use a few concepts from our vowel system, but oro is probably transmuted into maybe the second tier of how you can connect into your oro. And we use the transcribing kind of definition of it. So you start at the top where, you know, you look at transcending energy. You have to be present within yourself in order for you to leverage into another completely different form. So you need stillness, you need all of those types of vibrations in one moment. And then you look at the second tier, which is everything to do with transitioning energy. So you transition from one state to another. And from that state there, you can really feel the impulse of your energy vibrating. And then moving into the third one, which is everything with transmutation, to transmute something. As you transmute into, you know, it's like a caterpillar goes into a cocoon and it's transmuting itself into a butterfly. We can do the same thing as human beings. You know, once we get that enlightenment feeling, we can bring that back into our body, and the enlightenment phase starts to emanate what transmutation is all about. Then you look at the fourth line, which speaks into transporting energy. So it's like a commutation of energy without you even saying anything. You're just being present. Your presence is enough for people to be able to, you know, feel the magnitude of your oro. And the last one is about transformation. How can my vibration transform somebody else's light, or how can it enhance it? Or if somebody's dark, how can you communicate that without even saying anything and transform somebody's light just by being in your state or your presence? So we use the 5 forms of transformation, which is, you know, goes deeper than that in Te Whareaio, but those are the 5 kind of basic things of what oro, vibration, what people communicate to in spirit form or energy form. We just use and articulate it through the Māori concept, where Ma represents purity. The word U is the connection between that purity, the real essence of that purity, and that E means connected, so it translates to pure energy connected. And once you start to kind of formulate all of those systems, bro,
feels like there's just like cheat codes on cheat codes, It's like everything's just embedded with a wānanga. And I remember one of the key things that stuck out at the last wānanga that we went to, which was like, there's a wānanga and a wānanga. You know, just you can dissect so many different things. But what I like about oro and what you're just sort of saying is that whether you're aware of it or not, there's something just happening like within you, around you. And I think the more awareness that we have, the more we're able to utilize and I guess shape certain things within our being. And so if I'm feeling down, if I have that awareness, I know that that's just energy stored, and there's a process to be able to either get out of that or evolve that into something where I'm feeling a lot more calmer. And as these are things that you're teaching in the whare?
Yeah, I'm kind of sort of giving people self-medicated codes in order for them to be able to process it themselves. You know, especially if we're going through really troubled times, sometimes we resort straight to Western medicines in order for it to just quiet it down or numb it down, which is fine too if that's your option. But, you know, if you give more of a therapeutic side that speaks more in tune to the source of where their pain's stimulated or where it's coming from, you'll understand that there are certain ways to be able to relieve the pressure and the stress. I use a kawa-tuapapa system. Kawa-tuapapa is almost like the absolute states of intention. And again, I'll use five intentions. Ko te kawatapu is utilising everything from knowing that it even exists. Because sometimes we want to sweep it under the carpet, it's not there, and then we'll just numb it down and carry on. Moving into the kawarua, which speaks to the truth of the matter. And sometimes we like to put illusions on things, and we want to paint our truth to it, not the
Not
truth.
the truth.
And then moving into, absolute understanding. And this is where empathy starts to come in for yourself. Once you start to become more empathetic, you're channeling in communication to, the source of where your issues are coming from or where the pain's coming from. It starts to, communicate back to you. So your body will start to feel a little bit uncomfortable, and that's where you just have to hold your own space and just allow yourself to process. Slow, medium or fast learners can pick that up. And then we move into, the sources of light when you come into the absolute acceptance, when you can accept something, and then you feel the pain just start to relieve itself. Moving on from that, it's the power of release. And, we can use our neurological system to be able to divide those into little cellular formulas that come out of your nerve endings, which are your fingertips, your toe tips. And if your central nervous system is in alignment with itself, it will start to process naturally, and your pain will over time leave. But we're so quick to just go Panadol, ibuprofen, Voltaren,
the quick way.
And I get it that people kind of need it, because I've resorted to it as well, and gone, just give me time to breathe, and then maybe tomorrow when I've got a little bit more energy, I can move into the process. System.
I like that, bro, because it is it's quite a process. And as I was sort of sharing to you earlier, it's the healing side of things, the inner work side of things. It's not necessarily an attractive space to be in. It's hard for people to want to do the mahi until it's time to do it. You're sort of like forced into a little corner, and you're like, okay, I have to deal with this. And sometimes we do resort to things that don't necessarily serve us. But what I'm hearing is there are ways to be able to do it in a healthy way that's not only going to help you understand what it is that you're going through, but you're going to be able to release it and therefore have the lesson to be able to know how to self-regulate when certain things happen. Because once you do it once, it doesn't mean to say that it's not going to happen again. Other things just tend to unfold. But if you do it once, at least you have the process to be able to trust yourself enough to know what it is that you're going through. Totally.
And that completely makes sense to, that same formula will work, doesn't matter how intense the pain is. I think the difference is the intensity you put into the process of the healing. And, a lot of people get kind of sort of, they shy back from this healing world, but, over time, it's like I really commend those light workers that are out there doing the mahi. I often think about it. I was like, man, what pain did they go through in order for them to be able to help somebody else? What measure of depth of darkness did they have to face in order for them to be the greatest teacher that they are? And people trust in their ability with their lives in their hands to be able to help miri and massage, some of the things that they're facing, and to the realm of, that open field of reality, to say, here's a canvas, it's blank, now you can go and fill it. There's there's everybody's got a kind of a story to tell, but this healing phase that most people are like, oh no, that's not for me type of thing. And healing's the new sexy at the moment, eh? You can tell when somebody's doing the mahi on themselves. You can see it in their eyes, you see the light in their eyes.
It's like that aura you're talking about, it comes full circle again, eh?
And that's the thing that people are attracted to. People are attracted more to energy than the physical image of what somebody portrays. Man, if somebody's out there being boss, they've done some mighty work on themselves in order for them to be able to raise the consciousness of their own levels. And to me, I'm attracted to that. I'm like, man, cool, brother.
Straight.
Like you're on a waka, you're on a kaupapa, man. Go. And so, I do really encourage people to kind of sort of look within, because without this inside reality that we're kind of sort of masking, you kind of sort of have a little dense moment of aroha to say, ka aroha, that you don't know yourself yet. But here's a platform when you're ready to come in. Here's a platform. Come in and introduce yourself to yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of framing it too, bro. Because when I do see people, there's more of a energy that I feel into first. You can see people who are doing really well, and then you can be in their presence, and it's like, oh, there's something there, and there is the element of one, you're receiving it, but me, I feel it's lighting that in me at the same time because I'm open to it, and it just sort of brings out my light, and I hope that's what I do in my huarahi, bro, is me honouring my light, is it starts to ignite, and it's like a light torch for other people to start recognising their own. And the one interesting thing that I heard you say as well is we all have a story. And I feel a part of our purpose is really reflecting on our story and those things that we aren't necessarily, going into in terms of some of the mamai or some of the challenges. I feel parts of our purpose are embedded in that, because you hear about all those light workers or you see them, and it's their pain that has caused them to sort of live with purpose to end the suffering of other people in similar situations. Now, I'm not saying it's fully in there, but having the courage to actually reflect, man, there's so much beautiful seeds that we've overlooked.
Bro, I'm just having a moment right here going, fuck, the bro's growing. I was like, bro, you weren't like this 4 years ago. You weren't spitting these rhymes 4 years ago, bro. Like, just to see the growth in you, bro, and for you to be able to articulate, you know, the things that you've obviously gone through and grown as a person. And, you know, because we can portray this image out into, you know, the global world through social media. But, you know, unless you kind of sort of got your shit sorted behind the scenes, you know, you can see through that stuff. But it's looking like I'm looking at a different person at the moment, bro. It's
Is it
wicked,
the haircut?
Bro. Maybe because you're wearing a beanie the last time I saw you that I just didn't notice, bro. Yeah. Bro, proud. Yeah, I didn't even know what we were talking about right there. I was just like,
bro. And it's cool how we've just sort of started to reconnect, and I think that is like the real mahi, bro, is we can portray a certain image or a certain mask, and what are we doing, I guess, in the background, and constantly having kōrero with hene pāne. I wouldn't say constantly, but even in myself, I just know what the things that I need to work on, and how am I showing up for that, and where is it being revealed, and all of the things that are being exposed. And if I'm able to share something, okay, now it's my turn to go through that process. And perhaps sometimes I'm quiet, but I'm also open to so many people around me. The thing I pride myself on, bro, is if someone says, oh, bro, how are you? I'll be very honest about how I am. I won't just say, oh, bro, I'm all good. I'll be like, oh, actually, bro, like, I'm a bit challenged in this area, but this is how I'm working through it, or this is how I'm feeling about it. You know, just trying to be honest in those moments.
And it's very courageous, you know, most people would be like, oh, you know, 90% of people say, yeah, no, I'm all good. Not truly thinking that is a safe space to be able to share and express how you're feeling in that moment. And a lot of people also don't know how to deal with it when somebody is honest.
Yeah.
You know, I remember us having a kōrero to, you know, when you are in front of people and you are holding space and you can see they're down and something's not quite right, that you don't have to be the therapist or the psychologist or the counsellor to be able to give them advice, but just to hold that space for them. And most people struggle with it because they end up wearing the energy of what the person is just
unloading. Yeah.
And so one thing I said to you last time that we spoke over the phone was to be an observer, not an absorber. There's a clear difference, because we can get sucked in as an empath and start to, you know, kind of feed that energy into our wairua. The next minute we've gone into our homes and taken that exact wairua and that energy into our homes, and then our kids wear it, then our kids go to school, and then the other kids get affected. Good way you can protect yourself is just, you know, protecting your own energy, protecting your space, being there as a good listener, but saying that that's their kōrero, and it's something that they just have to, you know, reverb and vocalize so that they can get some more understanding about what they're going through. And if you're there sitting in that presence, observing that situation, you're also receiving a koha, you know, a koha of somebody's honesty, a koha of somebody's truth. And that is a koha, not for you to go and take that kōrero and go, oh, bro, guess what? Blah, 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 this is what's happening. That kōrero loops around again, and then it comes back to that person. Now you never want to share with me ever again. And dare I say it, but Te Ao Māori, it's really bad for it. You know, it's really bad for it. How much do we hear gossip of other people just based on a perception? Perception grows when it's talked behind your back. There's a million other stabbing knives going through your back. By the time it gets back to you, you're like, that wasn't the kōrero.
That wasn't it.
So it's, you know, something to be very, very mindful of as humans, of how we like to feed off negative energy and then go and pass that darkness on to somebody else to enlighten ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, just being an observer and being a safekeeper. You don't have to be a space cadet, and get yourself involved in the kōrero, but just be like, thank you for sharing is enough. Is enough for somebody to be like, wow, thank you for holding that space for me whilst I got to work out in my head what was going on.
There's so much trust that's been built within those spaces, when you can just listen. And it's quite interesting that you bring that up, and I'll be completely transparent here if we're on the cards. One of the things that, I've been working with in my marriage with Hene Pani, and that's something that I've been trying to work really hard on this year, and that's around me not necessarily judging. And sometimes I don't feel that I'm judging, but what she's interpreting it as judging, which creates a space that she doesn't feel safe to open up with. And that's her sharing certain things, and I share a solution rather than being in that safe space. And what I've noticed is that I can be out helping and holding space for others, but within a relationship dynamic, things do sort of shift, and that's where I feel I put a lot of mahi in. And it's quite cool how you sort of bring that kōrero up, and even though I know it and I can do it, there's other areas where I can be better, and this is just one of the areas where I'm just really putting more energy in, because although that space is there, it's uncomfortable for me to hold that space at times. And so just learning to massage and trying to better understand of what's needed and what am I willing to overcome so that I can fulfill that. And so that's the massage, the miri that's happening at this point in time.
It's a good grind, bro, and it's, when you can become kind of more truthful with your own bullshit, knowing that, we're not all perfect, and I liked the way that Bob Marley articulated, no one's perfect, no woman's perfect, the ocean looks beautiful, but it's not exactly perfect, the trees and the sun and the rays of light is perfect, but it does have its dark moments as well, and it's about identifying, how you can connect into your own darkness and how you can reveal some of that truth for yourself, even if it gets shown in front of the one that you love, and knowing that there is conditions between you and your most pure love, because that's what it is. It's not unconditional. When you've given your pure love and your heart to somebody in that manner, there's conditions that come with it. It doesn't become unconditional. But to help each other grow, you kind of have to break through all of those kind of darkest points to be able to say, oh, okay, this has been exposed now. Now, how are we going to deal with it? You can either grow from it or you can tuck your tail and run and then wait for it to just come up into, say, maybe the next relationship that you go in, and it just repeats its cycle over and over and over.
That's right.
And, some of the findings that I've had with myself in my own personal relationship, that there's a given that you can help each other see the truth in those dark moments, and it's growing from the point of measure by understanding yourself in a most pure way. Like, we're all pure in some form. If you can take yourself back to purity, it'll give you the answer. It's like that payoff and that wisdom that you create through it. The force of application from that, bro, is, that's where we win.
Damn, bro, received all of that, because that's been like some beautiful kōrero that we've actually been sharing, is there is conditions and there is layers to aroha, and that's being able to be honest and share how you're feeling without feeling personally attacked. It's about how do we take away those projections and just creating space where we can share without the feeling of, man, I don't want to share this because it might hurt them, or I don't want to share this because of how it's going to be perceived. That's like another tier of connection and aroha, because at the end of the day, what I do realize is that is the truth, is there's something that binds us, and we know that it's aroha. Everything else is either a misinterpretation or our own things that we need to deal with. But being able to connect to that and just being open, far out, I think there's the next tier. And, last time we were catching up, brother, you didn't have your mataora, but now, kua tipu mai, bro, kua whakahua mai nei. So how's that journey been for you, brother? Talk about, I was there and it was beautiful, bro.
Yeah. And that was a moment of 3 years of building up the wairua, the Māori, the confidence, the energy, because it was still quite new for our generation 3 years ago. There was this big kōrero about me moko te ao, and kia hau ne moko ake, I just felt like I was always going to receive this taonga. This taonga was always going to be revealed, but in the time that I ensured that I started my journey. And I did start that journey maybe 3 years prior to receiving my mataora. But it just feels amazing to wear your tupuna on your face, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really does. It's, you know, when you come into that space, it's not a factual matter that when you get it, you become this whatever. Man, the journey only really just begins. And I was like, but I began the journey 3 years ago. And now you're saying I just begin again now. And so everything is, you know, through that infinity process, it's always returned back to the nothingness. It's always returned back to its pure state. It's a never-ending journey of lessons that you're going to receive on the daily, on the hour, in the minute, in the moment, that you can be present with yourself and recognize that you are standing in your mana, you're standing in your light, and be compassionate with yourself that you are going to slip left and right, you are going to make mistakes, you are going to learn from some, you know, pretty heavy slips and falls, but you know, if you can be fearless through understanding how you're going to breach and grow through those mechanisms, and you know, I'm very, very proud to be Māori and one that, and Pākehā too. You know, I'm a half caste, and it allows me to be able to walk comfortably in both worlds and not dip my head when I walk into a Pākehā environment. But yeah, mana is, bro. I'm proud.
Do you forget sometimes?
Yeah, yeah. Like just now, I forget. You know, I think that we're just looking at each other's eyes, having a moment, and then you bring that up, and I'm like, oh, yeah, true that. Yeah. So I think it's just, you know, how I kind of bring this into normalizing it. You know, bringing this into normality, and especially for my kids too. My boy goes to a Pākehā boarding school, and you know, it affected him a little bit because it was like, oh, is your dad a mongrel, is your dad a gangster? And I was like, hey, yeah, and you know, just to help miri him through it. I didn't realise how it was going to affect him at that time, but you know, obviously, the more I showed my face, and the more I smiled, and the more I gave good energy to it. To me, it was about changing the perception of what it really means to be Māori. And for that, it's changing the narrative of what our country's going through at the moment, and this fusion between people are getting a little bit upset about our reo being broadcasted all over the world, or all over mainstream media. So to me, we're rumbling in the right places, bro, and we're causing friction in the right places. It's just about allowing us to be able to process that and let time unfold that as it needs to be, so we can realign it in its right order.
Nice.
And I'm sure our tupuna from 1840 would be proud of where we're heading at the moment, and what shoes we're rattling, and you know, how we're rattling in it. So, you know, kia tātou nei, mai te tangata tiriti, ki ngā tangata whenua o Aotearoa nui tonu. I think we're heading in the right direction.
I feel that too. It feels great, bro. It feels great to, I guess, feel the disruptions that are happening, and just the champions that are out there, bro, in terms of kaupapa, people and things that are happening. It's like quite choice to be a part of, I guess, what is unfolding. And something that just came to mind, bro, just checking back to our previous kōrero, and something that I've been sitting with is around, I guess, the masculine and the feminine energy, and looking at, I guess, where we are, because that was like a big kōrero in our last one, actually, was about masculine and feminine, around the masculine and feminine energy. And thinking about like masculinity, and thinking about, because there's a way of being masculine in a dark way, but also in a good way. Now, what I feel is that it's not about going all the way and being tapping in more into our feminine, although that needs to rise. It's how do we balance the bringing ourselves back into being positive masculine, right? Have you been able to differentiate the two, bro, in terms of the heavier side of masculine energy and what it looks like to be more on the lighter side of masculine?
Yeah, pai, bro. I think we can reveal in this day and age, in this moment, that a lot of people have become woke to what the masculine and the feminine divine essence is doing to humanity, and what power it does possess. And then you look a little bit deeper, and then you're saying, oh shit, there's a positive and a negative to both. There's toxic masculinity, and there's positive masculinity. There's same for toxic femininity and positive femininity. And once you start to recognize where you are placed in the scale of things, it's like looking at your gauge. You can really see how much your ego has a massive part to play and your toxicity. And once you start to kind of sort of humble yourself through, life's lessons, because no matter what, the universe will throw it at you. If your ego is kind of getting out of check and you're using it for the wrong purposes, it has a different way of kind of, slamming you. So, it's happened to me as well. I've had to kind of really measure myself, but the humility that I got from it was, it put me back into balance. And now, I kind of I liken to use ego as a sprinkle of fairy dust, or like a nos booster. For me, it's, when it's on, and I think our tupuna kind of had a way of doing it as well. You look at our karaua on the paipai, when they get up there and they're fully in their ego and going up, and because you need that ego to be able to bring that masculine might within you, and then again, how do you bring it back into neutrality? I think that's where sometimes we fall out of balance. We forget how to neutralize ourselves, how to ground ourselves, and only Papa Tūnoko can do that. Only the power of the mana o te wahine can do that. So if you've got a wahine that understands that as well, she knows how to bring that balance down in you. And so it's, about navigating that space and understanding how therapeutic it is to be able to bring yourself back into a neutral state, not rush back into another kaupapa, and just give yourself a little bit of time to be able to figure out how you can balance that energy. Here goes my kuri.
I think that's such an important kaupapa now, and I think that's just going to help us move into, I guess, what's happening here in Tāmaki, Here at the Wānanga, Tāne, Matua, there's going to be...
I'm always bringing one of my children.
Bro, last time it was Kaiaio, now it's your 4-letter child. But brother, we're here in Tāmaki. This is Tāne Matua, a wānanga full of beautiful tāne. This is my third one this year. It's been unreal. Every single time it's different. Every single time there's this essence that has been consistent throughout it. And what I've been seeing, what I've been feeling myself, it's been super awakening. Just the healing and just seeing the growth that just... Everything that you said around the oro, it happens in this wānanga. The recognizing, the having the space, the trust, the transmutation, the transformation. All of these things are just happening in the space of, I wouldn't even say 48 hours. It's like probably 12, maybe less. And so what is Tāne Matua, bro, and where did this kaupapa come from?
Pātai pai. I think that Tāne Matua has always been available to us in terms of whakapapa and the different paradigms that Tāne has had to go through in response to our orokohanga or our creation story. Tāne is featured, quite heavily through, most of the different milestones that have been acquired in terms of the universal law. And we as indigenous people or tangata whenua really recognise this this entity that Tāne carried through his journey. And so, us as descendants of this atua, gives us a little bit of an insight on how he managed things and how things were kind of, not all glorious. There were trials and tribulations, there were ups and downs, there were flaws, there were moments of insight, there was states of hoka being kind of transmuting into a higher power or higher being, or I think they call it astro traveling these days. And so I saw that Tāne had a wānanga to offer our men which were suffering. A couple of years ago we launched Tāne Matua, but in a way where I did see our men, statistically, we were falling heavily through all of the stats for the wrong reasons, or the higher stats for the wrong reasons. And so we decided to open up this platform, Tāne Matua, and really just dig into the application of what it means to be a good father, or what it means to be a good brother or a good mate, or good whānau member, because I kind of recognised that there weren't many value to this, which means the state of men's worth wasn't regarded as anything. It was just there was no protector provider kind of wairua behind it. It was all of it had a heavy drinking culture, second highest suicide stat in the world, just not a whānau orientated man, would rather do all of the, kind of fluffy things before you kind of looked after the base and foundation of what it meant to be a Tāne in this day and age. And so we recognised that as a little bit of a foundational weave that we could kind of introduce the concepts of tāne matua inside of a wānanga space. And then if people get inspired to kind of move through different levels from there, it kind of worked its magic. So we're at wānanga number 227 for Te Whare Aio. And over the last 2 years, I think we've managed maybe 25 tāne matua wānanga throughout the country. And so this is the biggest one that we'll hold tomorrow. 110 men that are going to be present in Waitakere. And so I'm really looking for, I don't even know how I'm going to do this, bro. This is I'm just go with the flow, go with the wairua, and be present in the moment, and things will happen.
Just a couple of, maybe a month or two ago, me and one of the bros just done our reflections on the wānanga coming off the back of maybe it was fresh as, bro, maybe like a week or less than a week, and we shared our reflections, and it's just one of those things that it's hard to put words to something outside of your own lived experience. You just speak about how you went through it, you speak about things that you saw, you think about the connections that you make, the new realizations that you have, and everything is just happening, bro. And it's the one thing that I really, really like about it. And if you're coming in for the first time, you wouldn't know it, because it's the first day to the last day. That first time of introducing yourself to the time you say goodbye to everyone. That kind of all of those things that happen, bro, it's quite incredible, because when you see someone's life just change in front of your eyes, bro, you can't unknow that, and there's so much inspiration and beauty, and everything just happens, bro. It's like I'm just getting all worked up thinking about it. And what do you think for you, bro, being able to hold space such as that? Because we're talking about it on a more intimate level, but there's a different level in holding space for such magnitude of people,
I don't actually know what happens, bro. I kind of morph into my own tupunatanga, and I just let that wairua kind of help guide and navigate me through that space, because you're dealing with so much trauma, bro, right from the get-go. And I can pick it up, I can feel it, but I approach it from a very non-judgmental perspective, and I allow the space to be safe when I've won their trust, when they can feel like they can trust me in that space. It's on. It's time to go in, and I take that role very seriously. Like it's something I leave no loose ends. Every inch of every dimension in that space is covered, and if it's not covered by me, it's covered by tupuna, and I communicate with the tupuna to help me navigate that space. Whilst my po are in action in the physical, I stay in the wairua presence just to help kind of manipulate it in a positive way, to ensure that people kind of can see how they can become a little bit more compassionate with themselves, aligned with themselves, but then start to see the coherency of why they're there in the first place. And when you start seeing that, the light just goes, your kauwairunga and kauwairaro processes become connected, and that Māori starts to interweave with the different DNA cellular forms that we have. And that's something that I really want to implement into people's eyes and ears, is that your DNA is sacred. Your DNA is tapu. Your whakapapa is tapu. And to ensure that you can kind of put some tangible weight to it, to know that your tupuna live within you. And when they become awakened, your ancestral mind starts to work in miraculous ways. Majestically, it starts to happen inside of that sacred space. And when that sacredness is being encouraged to filter the depths of intergenerational trauma, direct trauma or indirect trauma, and what the payoff is for it, that payoff in wisdom is, man, it's like a formula of overwhelming aroha. And that can last for up to 12 weeks post the wānanga. the radiation of aroha becomes so overwhelming that you can't explain it. And I've designed it that way so it protects the intellectual property of the wānanga. So much so you can't just duplicate it. You can't just be that key person to go in there and activate space because of the tapu that's around it. And I was very lucky to kind of be shown from many kaiako and many tohunga and align myself to them in a way where I always love to acknowledge them in the space when I can feel their energy is coming through. And so it's I've been inspired by so many different kaiako and different wānanga that I've been a part of, but to now kind of open my own space and allow people to say whether they're ready or resonate with it, time to come in. It's been overwhelming, bro. This wānanga sold out in like 2 days, and I didn't even really put it out there that much. It was just like, here it is. And so we had a massive waiting list, like that long line that you were talking about before, about queuing up outside of a door. That waiting list was overwhelming to see, just the amount of people waiting to get in. And I took that as a little bit of a Western medicine isn't helping us. And that's mamai. That's mamai. That hits. That hits differently because it's like I can feel myself welling up from it now, and the fact that all these people are waiting, and they would rather be in courage to death than life. Every breath is a struggle to survive, and it's just really, it's painful to watch. And I've only got this much capacity. I want to take everyone, man. If I had 800 people in that room and I knew what magic I could do for them, I'd do it. But yeah, the Western frameworks aren't working fast enough for us, and unfortunately us little wānanga goers on the ground that are actually doing the active mahi, we don't get supported. So we have to find other ways and other avenues in order for us to be able to open the door so that people can come in. But when we do save one life, we make an impact for a whole generation, 7 generations deep down from that one person. And to me, that's we're winning. We're winning, bro.
Powerful, bro. And a big part of that that process is the haka, bro. And people who are Māori or people who are non-Māori who even just have the opportunity to be in the presence of someone doing a haka, I can just think of, I just need to hear a call, bro, and I can switch on, And it's beautiful how our journey is framed around a haka that you and I'm sure others have helped to create. Now, what is it about the haka, bro, that we can connect to as tāne, but even wahine? And what is it in that, brother?
Well, I think Papa Wetini Mitai kind of explains it really well as in one of his YouTube videos that, ha's the breath and the ka's the fire within. So, I kind of liken that to a taniwha or a dragon of some sort that can build energy from the source of your pū and build that up into a ihi. And that ihi then kind of resonates and just brushes this fire of energy that is blazing from your fingers, your toes, the ends of your hair, so everything is on fire. And all we see in this 3-dimensional world is the physicality. What I see is this other energy connect. Fire jumps, as soon as it connects with another flame, it grows into multiple sources of energy. And to have, kind of people understand that connection, and therapeutically what it does to one's internal processes is that it gets to sterilize, because heat sterilizes, So when you're carrying so much mamai, all you have to do is sterilize it, and haka therapy is a way for us as tāne to be able to bring that warrior within and bring him out in a safe way, in a way where it's not, cool, we're fighting a different war now. It's not a battle against tribe or Māori against Pākehā. This is the battle against self. And when you can do that collectively in a consciousness, bro, that it just radiates differently. So we use it authentically in a traditional sense with absolute respect that is guided by tikanga and kawa and utilising te wete o te reo te whakaarahi atu ana tātou ngā inga. And allowing us to be able to be guided by the true nature and force of what haka really represents. And so, Motatini coming up soon. I'm getting a little bit
What I like, it's just like a primal expression, bro. It's like, that's one way to connect. We talk about, your source, your truth, your essence. Bro, when you're in full haka, bro, like, that's your full expression. Just like, here I am. This is who I am. I remember one time, bro, like, I was doing a kōrero over in Aussie with the mentor's names, Marcus Akuhata Brown, and he took me around on the speaking circuit in Melbourne, and we were speaking in schools, and I think there may have been like eight schools that we went to over a 3 or 4 day period. And I remember this was like the third to last school, and we went in, and I just get up and I'd just do a little mihi and share a little bit about me and then introduce him. So that was basically me, but getting the experience from him. And I wasn't really doing too well in that little role, but I remember I stood up in this one particular kura, and it was an auditorium, bro. And there were kids just all around, and I remember I got up and started talking, and all of these kids weren't paying attention. They were just doing their own thing, and I just got real whakama. The worst thing that could happen with public speaking is you don't say nothing, and that happened to me. I just got nervous, and it felt like I was up there for eternity, bro, but I don't know how long it was, but this whakaaro came over me that I'm not going to sit down without them knowing who I am. So I just done a haka. I just done te puru, just out of nowhere, bro. From full-on silence to just a full-on haka. And I ended up just sitting down, and that was one of the moments where I can really say that I was able to reveal in a moment of true vulnerability. I was able just to show up in that way. Although the ramifications after it, I was super whakama, I was shy, I was hiding away. But then another interesting moment happened after that, where I didn't want to speak in the next kura, but I knew that if I didn't speak, I wouldn't be able to speak anymore. My confidence would drop. So that's just an experience of where it has been able to be super helpful in those moments, but even in this healing capacity that we do within Tāne Matua, man, it's just, I just love it, bro, and you can even see people who aren't necessarily connected to being Māori, but then you seeing them doing the haka, and then you see them speak at the end that, man, this is the first time I've ever felt connected to being Māori and who I am. And that's super mana enhancing, bro.
Oh, and then I liken the elements of haka. It has different kind of avenues where you can access 100% of your mind. That's crazy for people to kind of...
It's like that Lucy
analytically. Bro, it is. And when you can perform it with 100% energy and tap into this 100% primal side of who you are, there you will experience an outer body experience to have this divine source of energy just radiating from your body, and it gives you the confidence to find your voice. A lot of us, like you, couldn't comprehend fast enough, because that's an analytical part of our brain saying you're not good enough, or bringing all the doubts in, or giving you the anxious or nervous feels, which is what people do when coming into Tāne Matua. Then they come into Tāne Matua, they feel this energy that's radiating, all of that just washes away. So haka is an avenue for you to kind of find your voice, but it takes a very authentic piece of tapu to allow you to be able to express in that manner. And then we break the haka down, and now knowledge drops in. So we're accessing different parts of the functionality of our mind that is coherent with our ngākau and how we're feeling. So we become more emotionally intelligent with ourselves, and then the growth of the man gets to see the essence of his soul. And once you can meet that little pure essence of your soul, that's where you start to cultivate, and that seed starts to emanate all of this energy from its root source to the development of the taproot that's starting to breach through the ground, and this other capacity of truth starts to come out, and what Tāne Matua ultimately represents, which is a game changer.
Absolute game changer. I can't wait for everyone to be a part of this wānanga. So we're going into a 2-day wānanga tomorrow, and then we've got it closes off on Sunday, but there's all of these different customary practices that go on, and by the time you hear this, we probably would have already done it. But just know that there are going to be more wānanga popping up, because as you know, there was a big waiting line, so there's a need. And now it's just, as things pop up, if you're resonating with this kōrero, honestly, look at the link in the bio. I have the Whareaio's page where they do all of the updates. But when it does come up, I'll be sharing it across my platforms too. So the door is open, but unfortunately at this point in time, it's limited to how much the whare can hold. So just be aware there when those dates do come up and you're open to it, click on it ASAP, because it is quite challenging to get in at this point in time. But brother, any final kōrero from you before we wrap up?
Oh, bro, it's just a privilege and an honour to come back in your space 130-something episodes later. For me, I think I was in my first year openly doing wānanga, so I was very new in terms of delivering to Whareaio, now 227 wānanga deep. We're doing some work on the ground, bro, and to get a measure of where we are. You're married with a baby, I'm going through my processes. I went through, my separation with my wife and becoming a papa and evolving as a man and growing and making all my ups and downs. And now I'm here grounded in front of you, and we're about to deliver an epic wānanga to 110 of our brothers that will walk through the doors of Te Whareaio, Tāne Matua tomorrow. I've only got 2 national pou in my Tāne Matua makeup, and you're one of them. And you've been with me, you've weaved with me through this journey, so to have you on my left side holding that space, and Brother Brad Rapira on the other side, to count that I've been inspired by another one of the bros that says we have 3 bad motherfuckers that are about to deliver the fucking ultimate wānanga of diversity to our people. And we're here to heal. We're here to heal. We're here to transform. We're here to make a change. And we're here to do the real mahi. And this, to me, is what leaving a legacy is all about.
Ooh, maranga maira. Let's go. Thank you so much, brother, for coming on. And obviously it's been a few years since our first one, but I think where we are right now, bro, is where we're meant to be. And having this kōrero and all of the things that you're doing, all of the things that I'm doing, just seems like the right time when we've been able to come back together and actually show up in a different way for a bigger purpose. And that's us in this sort of way, in this capacity. So thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you heaps. And e te whānau, follow the brother.
Ruana te whanua. Sorry, there's a little bit of a roo going on there. Someone's getting a little bit too excited. Let's go open this wānanga. We're going out to the waterfall now to open up a wānanga.
Peace.
Mi ana brother.
Cheer my brother. Oi.